The world shivers. They are pinned down, the earth trembling around them with the concussive shock of heavy artillery. It is late afternoon, and the air is thick with the scent of pine needles and ash. They huddle in a shallow, makeshift trench on the final perimeter of the island, a place named for a mythological protector but offering no defense now. The battle is not a storm, it is a grinder. The American advance is slow, methodical, and unanswerable. Every few minutes, a blast tears through the trees, showering them with dirt and splinters. They lie motionless, their hearts pounding a frantic, trapped rhythm. They are women, soldiers, and citizens of the empire, and they know the final order: there is no surrender. They clutch their weapons. They see the resignation in each other's eyes, a fierce, cold resolve to execute the final, absolute duty. They were taught that the enemy is a brute, driven by base, savage instincts. Capture means dishonor worse than death, and they are prepared to take their own lives to avoid this fate. Their hands are slick with sweat, moving instinctively toward the bayonet hilts. Suddenly, without warning, the artillery ceases. The silence is worse than the noise. It is an immense, pregnant quiet that stretches every nerve ending. They wait for the inevitable, the screaming charge, the final chaos. Instead, they hear a distant, strange sound, the whirring of an engine, a sound too smooth and controlled for the battle they just endured. A voice, amplified through a loudspeaker, booms in Japanese. It is a calm, measured voice, utterly devoid of the expected rage. It offers safe passage. It offers medical care. It offers surrender. The word itself is poison, a violation of everything they were taught. They look to their remaining leadership for the order to commit. The order that comes is a desperate, shocked whisper: hold. The American forces emerge, not running, but walking, a slow, confident advance through the smoking rubble. They see the enemy up close for the first time. The soldiers are not bloodthirsty fiends, they are disciplined, wearing clean, heavy, non-camouflaged uniforms, a baffling display of material confidence. They carry semi-automatic rifles and vast, organized amounts of ammunition. This is the first psychological shock, the enemy's cold professionalism. They are captured quickly, expertly disarmed, and secured. The humiliation of the surrender is immense, but the expected cruelty never manifests. Instead, they are met with clinical efficiency and detachment. They are processed into a temporary holding area. The American guards maintain a strict, impersonal distance. There is no verbal abuse, no mocking, just the cold, detached process of managing inventory. They look for the expected signs of desire or hatred, but the guards' eyes are flat, focused only on the task. The journey away from the front is swift. They are loaded onto trucks that lurch and pitch along a hastily constructed road. As they travel, they notice a baffling detail: the American supply crates are sometimes sealed with thick red and blue tape that looks ceremonial, utterly unnecessary for a war zone. This confusing detail makes the enemy seem both ridiculous and frighteningly wasteful. They begin to realize the American guards are not acting out of personal morality or malice, but out of adherence to a stringent, unbending code. The lack of human contact is not personal, it is protocol. This is a terrifying discovery, because a personal enemy can be reasoned with, but a bureaucratic system cannot. This gripping story follows the intense emotional and cultural journey of soldiers facing an unexpected reality. If you find this history compelling, please subscribe and let others know where you are watching from in the comments below. The trucks finally stop at a large, temporary holding facility. They are segregated immediately into their own barracks, separate from the male prisoners. This immediate separation, this unexpected protocol, heightens their anxiety. They had expected to be mixed, vulnerable. Instead, they are isolated by a code they don't understand. The American officers overseeing the camp are women. This is a profound second shock. They see female officers in command, disciplined, cold, and utterly detached, a sight that destabilizes their understanding of the enemy's societal structure. The fear in the barracks begins to shift. They realize that their conventional ideas of military conquest, which often included emotional dominance over the defeated, do not apply here. They are facing an alien enemy, one whose behavior is completely unpredictable. The cultural framework for survival, however, is deeply rooted. In their world, protection and status for a woman often depended on forming a binding, personal connection with a powerful figure. If the formal code of honor is gone, then the informal code must be invoked. They must secure their safety and regain some semblance of honor through a personal bond. You're witnessing the start of a profound cultural clash. To ensure this unique perspective reaches more history lovers, hit like and tell us where you are watching this story from in the comments below. A silent consensus forms among the defeated women. They realize they must approach the guards. They must offer commitment, devotion, and a bond to secure their future, a proposal of love, an act of desperate cultural survival. This is the only way they know to regain a foothold of control and honor in a world that has utterly rejected their sacrifice. One American guard, a medic, shows a flicker of humanity by adjusting a blanket for one of the sick, a tiny, crucial detail. He is identified as the target. The moment is chosen carefully, during the quiet change of shifts, just before dawn. With a deep breath and a final nod to their comrades, one of them steps forward, leaving the shadow of the barracks. She walks toward the young, armed American soldier, preparing to offer a proposal that she believes will secure her future and restore their collective honor. The soldier stops, his face impassive under the helmet, his rifle held steady. She stands before him, performing a slight, deep bow, a gesture of profound respect and submission. She speaks in halting, rehearsed English, her voice barely a whisper, yet firm with the courage of a final gamble. She offers not a simple request for help, but a proposal of a binding, permanent relationship, an offer to serve him loyally for life in exchange for his protection and honor. The medic pauses. The air in the barracks freezes. The other women watch, their hearts pounding with collective hope and terror. This is the ultimate cultural card, the offer of devotion to secure survival. The tension is about to break. Do you think the medic will break protocol and accept the proposal? Subscribe now and let us know your location in the comments below. The medic stands motionless for what feels like an eternity. He looks at the woman, then at the interpreter standing nearby, then quickly down at the ground. His response is delivered in a low, flat tone, completely devoid of personal emotion, focusing only on the regulations. He speaks only 2 English words, which the interpreter relays with clinical detachment: regulation violation. He then points to a brightly lit sign, a purely functional detail screaming protocol, and repeats, orderly processing. He refuses to even acknowledge the emotional or cultural weight of the offer. The woman recoils as if struck, the refusal an absolute, impersonal devastation. They retreat back into the shadows of the barracks, the humiliation complete. The enemy is not a brute, but a machine, one whose cold, unyielding code has just delivered a blow far more effective than any bullet. The emotional wound is deep, but the immediate pressure remains. They realize they must try again. They must find a weakness in this protocol, a human crack in the machine. As the door to the barracks clanks shut for the night, they begin to plot their next desperate move, a move to propose love to another guard, convinced the medic was simply an outlier. The terrifying question that hangs in the darkness is, what will happen when the machine rejects them again? The memory of the medic's cold refusal burns hotter than any jungle fever. The woman who made the offer retreats into the shadow of the barracks, her face etched with profound humiliation. The other women watch her, the shared shame a heavy blanket in the humid darkness. They now have confirmation, the enemy is not driven by the predictable passions of men, but by a chilling, impersonal code. The humiliation is a catalyst. They realize their desperate act, based on deeply ingrained cultural survival tactics, failed because the American enemy operates on an alien logic. The value they offered, loyalty, devotion, and commitment, was measured against a regulation and found wanting. The emotional trauma is immense, but the need for survival remains absolute. The following morning, they are moved. The destination is unknown, and the manner of transport is another unsettling display of power. They are loaded onto several massive, six-wheeled trucks, clean, powerful machines that lurch and move effortlessly across the rough terrain. This machinery is a contrast to the failing, patched-up vehicles they relied on. As the trucks pitch and roll, they watch the landscape of the enemy's logistical system unfold outside the canvas cover. They see immense military vehicles being serviced by American mechanics who look impossibly young and well-fed. The maintenance is meticulous. The equipment is spotless. This is the first disparity. They remember their own maintenance crews, exhausted and often forced to use inadequate tools and scavenged parts, their work always a desperate attempt to delay inevitable mechanical failure. The American operation is a precision machine. The vast amounts of fuel, spare parts, and tools are casually displayed, an endless supply that mocks the constant scarcity they endured. They begin to realize the American discipline is not a veneer. The guards, male and female, strictly adhere to a code that seems to prioritize impersonal duty over any form of personal interaction. This continuous, rigid professionalism confirms their deepest fear: they are facing an enemy that is both machine and master, governed by regulations more powerful than human emotion. The trucks head inland, moving them away from the noise of the Pacific. They notice another strange detail of the enemy's world. During a stop, they see American soldiers, when off duty, engaging in bizarre, playful interactions, tossing a simple leather ball back and forth, laughing loudly. This strange, open display of carefree recreation is bewildering. They cannot reconcile this image of light-hearted play with the brutal efficiency that captured them. The enemy is fragmented, terrifyingly professional on duty, yet soft and frivolous off it. This cinematic story is focused on the intense cultural clash of the Pacific War. This deep history deserves to be seen. Subscribe now and let others know where you are watching from in the comments below. The trucks finally stop at a large detention camp built far from the coast. This facility is permanent, surrounded by high fences and guard towers, yet it is clean, structured, and unnervingly quiet. They are processed quickly and placed into new, uniform barracks. The American female officers oversee the camp, maintaining the same rigid non-contact rules as the male guards. No private conversations. No lingering presence. Just the swift, professional distribution of food, medical care, and laundry. The cultural survival mechanism shifts again, hardened by the first failure. If a direct proposal of love failed because it violated protocol, the next proposal must be made to an individual who shows disdain for protocol. They must target the weakest link, the guard who shows a sliver of personal emotion, even if that emotion is negative. They identify a young guard who often patrols the fence line near their barracks. He is younger than the medic, seems nervous, and sometimes shows impatience or annoyance when the women fail to immediately understand the English commands. This impatience is the crack they are looking for, a sign of human frustration, something they can exploit with an offer of personal devotion and soothing companionship. The plan is executed 2 days later during the evening meal distribution. The young guard stands near the door. As the food is passed, another woman, chosen for her calm demeanor, steps forward. She speaks in carefully phrased, almost poetic Japanese, asking the interpreter to translate her words with precision. She bypasses the initial offer of lifelong service. Instead, she presents an argument based on human connection and mutual escape from loneliness. She tells the guard, through the interpreter, that she sees his frustration and nervousness, that she too is lonely and afraid. She offers him a bond of love and understanding that will relieve the stress of his duty and provide a future after the war. The proposal is framed as a mutual rescue. The guard listens to the translation. The expression on his young face tightens. He seems genuinely conflicted, looking from the woman to the heavy fence line, then back to the officer in the distance. The women watch, hearts pounding. This time, the silence is not bureaucratic, it is human. He takes a deep breath, and for a terrifying moment, they believe the protocol is about to break. He looks at the woman and delivers a response that is clearly his own, not simply a regulation. I can't. I have orders. I have a girl at home. It's not allowed. The interpreter relays the response. He says he cannot, due to rules. He is promised to another woman. The rejection is personal this time, but still absolute. This failure to secure a relationship, even based on human emotion, is the final blow to their cultural survival strategy. Comment below and let us know where you are watching this story from. The second rejection is a catastrophic failure. The words, "I have a girl at home," are incomprehensible. The guard has chosen a distant, abstract commitment over the immediate, available devotion they offered. They realize their cultural value, the offer of loyalty and love, is simply worthless in the face of this enemy's external societal norms. The emotional wound of the second failure lurches through the collective. They retreat back into the shadows, the humiliation compounded. The enemy is not predictable by their cultural rules. Their only remaining hope is to find a system of value that the Americans do respect. The women begin to observe the guards differently. They focus on what the guards value most: efficiency, obedience, and the written word. Their next proposal cannot be emotional, it must be transactional. They must find something the Americans value more than their own emotions, more than their own societal bonds. As they watch the guards meticulously charting supplies, another desperate, radical idea forms, an idea based on knowledge and information, the only thing they might possess that the Americans might be willing to trade for. That night, one of them, a former communications specialist, carefully writes a note in halting English, detailing the remaining coordinates of their abandoned radio equipment, a valuable military asset. She plans to offer this information, this valuable commodity, in exchange for a formal, binding contract of protection for herself and her comrades. As dawn breaks, she hides the note on her person, ready for the next shift change. She walks toward the main administrative office, prepared to execute the first purely transactional proposal, a proposal based on material value, not love or honor. The terrifying question that hangs in the cold morning air is, will this material offer be treated with the same cold rejection as the offer of their hearts? The sting of the second rejection, the guard's reference to a girl at home, has hardened the collective resolve. They realize emotional pleading and personal devotion are worthless commodities to this enemy. The humiliation has given way to cold, calculating logic. They must now operate outside the realm of human feeling. The former communications specialist, the one chosen for her disciplined mind, now holds the fate of the collective. She carries a small, meticulously folded note hidden in her simple uniform, a transactional proposal. It details the coordinates of abandoned radio equipment, hidden communication logs, and the location of a sunken supply cache, information that is purely material and military. This is their last asset, the only thing they believe the American machine will truly value. The moment is chosen carefully. The specialist plans to intercept the highest-ranking officer available, the camp commander, during his official morning inspection, a moment of maximum visibility and accountability. This means the officer cannot easily hide a successful negotiation. The specialist steps out of the barracks line, moving with a controlled, steady pace toward the main drill ground. The camp commander is a tall, imposing figure, surrounded by junior officers, all meticulously logging details on clipboards, the sacred texts of the American military. The specialist stops just short of the commander's path. She performs a swift, disciplined bow and presents the note. She speaks in clear, halting English: information, military value, trade, protection, signed contract. The commander stops. His entourage freezes. He takes the note. His eyes scan the blocky, rehearsed English detailing the asset locations. The moment stretches into an eternity. This is not an offer of a heart, it is an offer of espionage, a direct challenge to the rules of war, but framed as a necessary transaction. The commander's eyes snap up to meet the specialist's. The collective watching from the barracks windows strains to read the officer's reaction. They expect greed, interest, or at least a break in the protocol. Instead, the commander simply looks at the note and then hands it immediately and without comment to his interpreter. He does not address the specialist directly. He addresses only the junior officer. Log this. Section 3. Prioritize immediate verification. Standard procedure. He then turns to the women and, speaking through his interpreter, delivers the chilling rejection: "Your offer is logged. Your information is now the property of the United States Army. Your status remains unchanged." He refuses to even acknowledge the specialist's person or the concept of the trade. The value of their information is reduced to a piece of data to be processed by the machine, with zero negotiation. The specialist recoils, utterly defeated. They have exhausted every cultural option: love, honor, and material value. The enemy has rejected all of them, not out of malice, but out of regulation and the simple fact that the American military takes what it needs without negotiation. The enemy rejected their hearts and their valuable military secrets. This profound cultural clash is escalating. Subscribe now and let us know where you are watching this story from in the comments below. The humiliation is internalized and profound. The ideological structure of them collapses under the weight of this incomprehensible discipline. They retreat back to the barracks, the silence heavy with the truth: they are facing an enemy that is entirely governed by cold, unyielding rules. The days that follow are a blur of demoralization. They are left alone for long periods, allowed to observe the routine of the camp. They watch the American guards with a new, terrified fascination. They are trying to find the source of this discipline. They notice every detail of the guards' behavior that screams protocol. The men and women never share food with them, they only distribute the precise rations. The guards never stop to talk, they only give commands. Their faces are always impassive, their posture always correct. One afternoon, they witness a profound example of this code. An American guard, patrolling the inner fence line, slips on a patch of wet gravel and falls, dropping his rifle. The women watching gasp, expecting a human reaction: anger, panic, or cursing. Instead, the guard instantly executes the precise, three-step protocol for recovering a dropped weapon. He checks the weapon, secures it, and resumes his post, his face flushing only slightly with embarrassment, not rage. He prioritized procedure over personal reaction. This sight is more terrifying than any threat. It is the absolute proof that the American soldier is fundamentally different, trained to reject not only emotion but basic human reaction in favor of the rulebook. The cultural gap is now a chasm. They understand that a human enemy, even a cruel one, can be manipulated by love, fear, or greed. This enemy, however, is immune to all three. The only remaining hope is to find a weakness in the system itself. They begin to observe the written material left behind: the food schedules, the laundry lists, the shift reports. They realize the Americans value these written documents more than anything else. One of them notices a subtle, consistent error in the posting of the duty roster, a minor discrepancy in the timing of the female officers' late-night patrols. It is a tiny, bureaucratic crack. The final, desperate plan forms: they will make one last proposal. Not of love, not of information, but of correction. They will offer the American commander a chance to correct their own system's mistake, thus proving they understand the true nature of the enemy's value system. This is a final, terrifying gamble to show the enemy they are not enemies of the body, but of the protocol. The women have decoded the enemy's value system, the written rule. Will their final proposal, based on correction and protocol, secure their honor or be met with a cold, final rejection? Comment below and let us know where you are watching this story from. The time is chosen just before the final shift change, the moment the error in the roster is most critical. The same specialist who offered the information steps forward. She holds a small piece of charcoal and a scrap of paper detailing the exact time and location of the roster error. She walks toward the senior officer's quarters, past the now familiar sentry. She waits for the moment the officer emerges. The officer appears, holding a stack of files. The specialist raises the small scrap of paper. She does not speak, she simply points to the paper, then to the officer's own official roster file, and taps her wrist, indicating the time discrepancy. She is offering correction, the ultimate sign of respect for the American system. The officer stops. Her eyes go from the scrap of paper to the specialist's face. The officer then slowly, deliberately, reaches out and takes the charcoal and paper. The collective watches. Is this acceptance? Is this the moment the machine acknowledges its error and finally recognizes them as valuable? The officer looks at the paper, then glances at her own roster. A single line appears on her face, a furrowed brow of professional annoyance. She nods once to the interpreter. The interpreter steps forward and addresses the specialist, delivering a response that is not rejection, but absolute dismissal. The error is acknowledged. This is the duty of the assigned officer. You are dismissed. The officer then hands the scrap of paper to her subordinate, who immediately discards it, and strides away, her attention already focused on the next item on her clipboard. They have been defeated by a procedural technicality. The system accepts the correction but denies the proposer any credit or value. The ultimate humiliation is complete. They are not valued even for their strategic knowledge of the enemy's own rules. They are simply invisible. As the specialist retreats, defeated by the system's indifference, a chilling announcement is made over the camp loudspeaker: all personnel are to prepare for immediate, unscheduled transfer. Transport arrives at 0200 hours. They look at each other, the terror renewed. The machine has noticed them, not for their proposals of love or value, but for their repeated attempts to penetrate its cold logic. They are now being moved to a new, isolated place, away from the familiar routines, a place where the protocol will be even colder. The punishment for trying to understand the enemy is isolation. The next chapter of their bewildering captivity is about to begin. The transport vehicle pulls away from the first detention camp at the unscheduled hour of 0200. The world outside the truck's canvas cover is a black, cold blur. The women are silent, crammed together, their humiliation now fused with raw terror. The machine has noticed them, not for their value, but for their attempts to break its cold logic. The punishment is isolation. The journey is long and bone-jarring. They realize the further they travel, the deeper they are being plunged into the interior of the enemy's system. When the truck finally lurches to a stop, the air is colder, drier, and carries the faint, metallic scent of heavy machinery. They are ushered into a new facility that is less a camp and more a cold, concrete shell. This place is utterly devoid of the simple comforts of the last one. The barracks are Spartan, the lights are harsh and constantly on, and the enclosure is surrounded by multiple layers of heavy, electrified fence, giving it a raw, brutal feel. The protocol here is instantly and dramatically colder. The guards are older, hardened men who maintain an even greater, more absolute distance. They wear thick, insulated uniforms and seem to communicate solely through curt, standardized gestures. No interpreters are present during the routine shifts, all orders are delivered in rapid, simple English, relying solely on them to comply based on memory and fear. This lack of language access is a deliberate escalation, a final barrier to communication. The humiliation of honor now intensifies because they cannot even attempt a proposal of any kind, love, value, or correction. They are rendered utterly voiceless. They realize the enemy's code is not just a written rule, it is a living barrier. They are now treated as objects of minimum maintenance and maximum security. Their emotional value is zero, their informational value is zero. Their only function is compliance. The days become a punishing routine of silent, meaningless tasks, sorting stones, folding heavy blankets, moving supplies from one corner of the barracks to another, only to move them back again. The work is designed for endurance, not purpose. As they perform these tasks, they notice a strange, new detail of the American operation. Outside the fence, beyond the secondary perimeter, they see American construction crews working with incredible, casual speed. They are erecting vast, standardized metal structures, warehouses or barracks, using enormous, loud cranes and prefabricated sections. The construction crews work with a terrifying focus, their faces obscured by welding masks and hard hats. This sight, the effortless, mass-scale construction, is a chilling revelation of the enemy's power. They recall their own nation's desperate struggles to build anything substantial, relying on hand labor and scarce materials. Here, the sheer scale of the building effort, treated as a routine day's work, underscores the insurmountable material disparity. The rejection of their love and value now seems utterly trivial in the face of this colossal industrial reality. The humiliation deepens. They realize they are not even important enough for the Americans to hate. They are simply a logistical problem to be contained by endless, available resources. The emotional arcs of the women begin to diverge under this pressure. Some retreat into absolute, compliant silence, hoping to become invisible. Others begin to show small, desperate signs of defiance, a defiant straightening of the spine, or refusal to make eye contact. But the vast majority focus on finding any possible meaning in the enemy's incomprehensible rules. They begin to treat the most mundane routines with intense scrutiny. They study the way the food trays are stacked, the angle at which the flag is raised, and the timing of the shift changes. They treat these observations as a final, silent search for the enemy's true moral code. The cold indifference of the machine is the ultimate humiliation. Their defiance is now a silent search for meaning in the enemy's rules. Subscribe now and let us know where you are watching this final chapter from in the comments below. One day, while stacking heavy sacks of sand, one of them collapses from sheer exhaustion. The collapse is dramatic, but the American reaction is the most chilling moment yet. The guard nearest the scene does not rush forward with human concern or malice. Instead, he follows a rigid, precise three-step protocol. First, he activates a small alarm on his belt. Second, he draws his sidearm and takes a prescribed step back, creating distance. Third, he waits. He does not touch the fallen woman, he does not speak to her. He treats the collapse as a security breach, not a medical emergency. Help arrives minutes later, following the same cold, impersonal routine. The fallen woman is attended to by a medic who treats her efficiently, but with zero human warmth. They realize the guard's action was not indifference, but a fanatical adherence to a rule designed to prevent any personal interaction or compromise. This spectacle confirms the ultimate, unbearable truth: the Americans are not cruel in the way they expected, but disciplined in a way they cannot match. Their moral code is not based on honor, but on written, organizational safety. The system rejects personal connection because personal connection is a risk to the efficiency of the machine. The ultimate cultural humiliation is this: the proposals of love, loyalty, and commitment, which held immense value in their own culture as survival tools, were utterly rejected because the enemy's system was designed to function without any reliance on human emotion. Their very definition of honor and value is useless here. They are now utterly defeated, not by physical force, but by a cultural code they could never decode. The internal battle is lost. The women have endured capture, shock, and the ultimate cultural humiliation. This silent, internal war is a forgotten chapter of history. Like this video and tell us where you are watching this story from in the comments below. Days turn into weeks. The war finally ends, not with a bang, but with the distant, official pronouncement delivered via loudspeaker, immediately followed by the return of the American officers from the first camp. The news is delivered with the same clinical tone as the food schedule. The next protocol is repatriation. They are processed quickly and efficiently. They are given clean, new clothing and rudimentary supplies. As they are marched out of the cold concrete shell for the final time, they are led through a sprawling American storage facility, a final, overwhelming spectacle. They see colossal warehouses filled with unimaginable stores of supplies, stacked precisely to the ceiling. They glimpse row after row of brand new, powerful vehicles, waiting to be sent home. The scale of the untouched, reserved material is the final, definitive answer. The war cost America nothing compared to what it had reserved in its vast, untouched interior. The journey ends at the coast. They are loaded onto a massive, fast transport ship, heading west. As they stand on the deck, looking back at the retreating American continent, they carry the heavy knowledge of an unassailable enemy, an enemy whose power lay not in its hatred, but in its impersonal, regulatory discipline. The silent cost they bear is the realization that their entire civilization's understanding of human nature and war was tragically wrong. They are going home, but their hearts are filled with the bewildering truth of the silent code. The women's ordeal is over, but the cultural reckoning has just begun. What do you think was the biggest shock to their core beliefs? Subscribe now and let us know where you are watching this story from in the comments below. The transport vehicle pulls away from the old camp, carrying them into a deep, unfamiliar interior of the enemy's logistical system. The air is cold and carries the metallic scent of heavy machinery. The atmosphere is one of absolute isolation. The machine has purged the variables. The new facility is a harsh, geometric concrete structure. The guards here are older, harder, communicating only through curt, standardized gestures. The cold, logical consistency of the American system is the final, unanswerable enemy. They realize the further they retreat from the front lines, the colder the protocol becomes. The new reality is crushing. They are utterly voiceless. No interpreters are present during the routine shifts. All orders are delivered in rapid, simple English, relying solely on them to comply based on fear and observation. This is a deliberate barrier, designed to enforce compliance through linguistic isolation. The shame of the rejected love proposals and the discarded intelligence is now secondary to the terror of the silent code. They are reduced to objects of minimum maintenance and maximum security. Their only function is absolute compliance. They witness the guards' unnerving dedication to the code every day. One afternoon, while stacking supplies, one of them collapses from exhaustion. The guard nearest the scene does not rush forward with human concern or malice. Instead, he follows a rigid, precise three-step protocol. He activates an alarm, draws his sidearm, and creates distance. He treats the collapse as a security breach, not a medical emergency. He does not touch the fallen woman. Help arrives minutes later, following the same cold, impersonal routine. The fallen woman is attended to by a medic who treats her efficiently, but with zero human warmth. They realize the guard's action was not indifference, but a fanatical adherence to a rule designed to prevent any personal interaction or compromise. This spectacle confirms the ultimate, unbearable truth: the Americans are not cruel in the way they expected, but disciplined in a way they cannot match. Their moral code is not based on honor, but on written, organizational safety. The system rejects personal connection because personal connection is a risk to the machine's efficiency. The ultimate cultural humiliation is this: the proposals of love, loyalty, and commitment, which held immense value in their own culture as survival tools, were utterly rejected because the enemy's system was designed to function without any reliance on human emotion. Their very definition of honor and value is useless here. The cold indifference of the machine is the ultimate humiliation. Their defiance is now a silent search for meaning in the enemy's rules. Subscribe now and let us know where you are watching this final chapter from in the comments below. The internal battle is lost. They are utterly defeated, not by physical force, but by a code they could never decode. The war finally ends, not with a bang, but with a distant, official pronouncement delivered via loudspeaker, immediately followed by the return of the American officers from the first camp. The news is delivered with the same clinical tone as the food schedule. The next protocol is repatriation. They are processed quickly and efficiently. As they are marched out for the final time, they are led through a massive storage facility, a final, overwhelming spectacle. They see colossal warehouses filled with unimaginable, untouched reserves of material, stacked precisely to the ceiling. The scale of the reserved material is the final, definitive answer. The war cost America nothing compared to what it had reserved in its vast, untouched interior. The journey ends at the coast. They are loaded onto a massive, fast transport ship, heading west. The women's ordeal is over, but the cultural reckoning has just begun. What do you think was the biggest shock to their core beliefs? Like this video and tell us where you are watching this story from in the comments below. As they stand on the deck, looking back at the retreating American continent, they carry the heavy knowledge of an unassailable enemy, an enemy whose power lay not in its hatred, but in its impersonal, regulatory discipline. The silent cost they bear is the realization that their entire civilization's understanding of human nature and war was tragically wrong. They are going home, but their hearts are filled with the bewildering truth of the silent code. The final journey home is not a passage of peace, but a long, silent voyage into the impossible burden of knowing the truth. Subscribe now and let us know where you are watching this story from in the comments below.